Sakura Quest consists of a series of extremely powerful, resonant, and wise discussions about deep personal insecurities, deftly woven throughout the tale of this tourism board. The all-around excellent writing starts pointing out and gently tugging at the hanging threads of these internal conflicts well in advance, and over a period of time those underlying issues will come to a head. They're perfectly paced so that they feel organic, and not like there's some unnaturally high rate of moments like this, as in some other series, where it seems like every few days the characters are uncovering some new way of looking at things that totally upends their entire perceptions of themselves and the world around them. They play out in a manner that feels appropriate to how this stuff would actually proceed in real life. And in fact, the only notably over-the-top and stereotypically dramatic big character moment is for a 12-year-old, who's basically throwing a tantrum as she eventually sees where she was wrong, which really puts into perspective the childishness of how a lot of scenes like this play out. In one of the strongest emotional moments, things only escalate to some unfairly harsh words, immediately recognized as such and apologized for, concluding with a comforting hug and some overwhelmed tears, and it's goddamn masterful. Ririko expresses a fascinatingly nuanced resentment of Yoshino, saying that it isn't that she herself wants to be Yoshino, she is who she is after all, but instead that she wants to be in the position of Yoshino, able to be understood and appreciated while being that honest self. It's a mature perspective, the recognition of the fact that changing to suit the world won't ultimately help you, and that even though it seems so much more difficult, the only way you'll find happiness is by finding a way to get the world to appreciate who you are, or at the very least, finding a place within it that will. Recognizing this, Ririko had come to give up on finding happiness, believing herself to simply be too strange for the world to ever find that appreciation of her. But Yoshino gave her a gentle assurance that there is absolutely value to that true self that people could come to cherish given time. Being able to get into these insecurities so deeply is why I'd call this series wise. It's a wisdom that can only be present in a convincing manner because of how relatively wise these characters are, because they're people that could legitimately speak with this level of maturity and understanding. Additionally, these often aren't massive attitude or behavior revolutionizing revelations. As with that example, a lot of the time they'll affect subtle ways in which these characters interact with the world, stripping away a sliver of cynicism, ceasing some small slice of self-doubt. But these small changes were in many cases the keystone holding up walls that they'd constructed around themselves, walls that trapped them in worlds much smaller and more limited than they should really be willing to engage with. With this added bit of perspective, they can see what they were missing that was keeping them from capitalizing on their potential, and finally start to really make something of their lives. But there's a draw to this series that's perhaps even stronger than its nearly best-in-class exploration of these big struggles, regret, self-doubt, and the like. Honestly, I just want to root for them because they're trying so hard in such a down-to-earth, mundane fashion in the day-to-day procession of their lives. Relating to some lofty human struggle, like the battle to prove yourself in a world that looks down upon you, is great, but those are such a nickel and no-nillion that unless an anime stands out for really executing on that well, the impact just isn't likely to be there. Series that do execute on these ideas well, your Bebops, Evangelions, FLCLs, are praised for how well they portray and comment upon elements fundamental to the human experience. Because of the way we humans function, there's a universality to those series, but Sakura Quest hits upon a sort of universality in a different manner. Sakura Quest isn't just universal because it comments upon how humans work on a fundamental level. It's universal to those of us living in more developed countries because it comments upon how the intersection of humans with our modern job market works on a fundamental level. This story could only exist in this time and place. This anime where young adults are plugging away at typing up text documents or updating web pages deep into the night, and then hanging out afterwards to drink themselves to a stupor even deeper into the night. The particular circumstances of their struggles are irremovably entrenched in our world, where young people are told they can pursue anything, but can rarely get any unconvoluted answers as to how to reach any of those career destinations they set out towards. You couldn't get this in the 60s, where the path from a high school graduation to a lifelong stable factory job was simple and laid out, or in the case of Japan in the 70s, where that clear path led to a life as a salaryman. Our world is one where you have near limitless entrepreneurial opportunities, but the sheer staggering volume of options open to you leaves you reeling at the prospect of figuring out which path to take. It isn't particularly noble stuff. It isn't a set of questions humanity has been grappling with for millennia in its art. It's whether or not I should move out to take this job when there's almost no idea of what the future of this position will be. It's how much effort do I want to put into this insane project I'm making alongside a group of people that are kinda weird rejectors of society or plain old social rejects, just by the nature of getting into this line of work. It's these sort of humble, ignoble questions that paradoxically make the series rather special. Or maybe the question Sakura Quest elicits is whether I'm going way too far in order to justify the base satisfaction I just derived from watching other women in their 20s working hard and getting tired out by that. You tell me. Right after I tell you that boiling the appeal down to that alone is doing the series a massive disservice. The series finale really gets to the heart of the message all of this commentary about navigating career paths is ultimately in service of. Sakura Quest is about, and no, I'm not joking here, the mono no aware of the modern job market. If you don't know what mono no aware is, then go watch some videos that are far better than this one that go over it. But in brief, it's about finding beauty in the transience of things. And the phrase I typed up in my notes to summarize the message of the finale before I even thought about how I could reference mono no aware here to make this video 10 times as academic and intelligent was finding deep meaning in things that will be almost inherently transient. In this case, that was Yoshino's job as queen. It was sort of shocking to see the end of the series roll around and her time working in Manuyama just be over. It was a perfectly reasonable development to occur, but with the immense depth of feeling and volume of effort that she had invested into this town, the fact that that could simply end like this put me in a state of numbed shock. What this ultimately built towards, however, was the realization that individual jobs don't reliably last for 50 years anymore. But that doesn't have to make any given one of them less meaningful. Yoshino may be moving on, but that doesn't belittle the value of her time spent as queen. In fact, it forever preserves it as a precious experience that was itself fleeting, but whose impact on Yoshino will be a companion for the rest of her life. Because of how meticulous the series is in slowly building to its big payoffs and ideas though, for me to say, the series finale really gets to the heart of the message all of this commentary is ultimately in service of, is also to say that the ultimate message itself was being diffused over the entirety of the series leading up to that finale. To convincingly make the point that there is value in this transience, the series would have to settle the questions of, what value is there to be found in a profession if it is doomed to be fleeting? Why should I get so invested in it? And, as you should expect by this point, it absolutely does so. Where Sakura Quest's spiritual predecessor Shirobako was about young women pursuing certain careers, this series is about finding a career to pursue, finding value in your current occupation such that you want to pursue it, or finding some value to the career that you do want to pursue in order to justify that desire. In portraying those struggles, Sakura Quest has an additional 3 compelling thematic ideas in their own rights, and is able to justify its placement of value upon jobs that won't last. And to take things back to the contemporary nature of what Sakura Quest is exploring, those struggles are specifically the struggles of our modern generation, of millennials. We change jobs more often than those of other generations, and desire fundamentally different things out of our work than those who came before. The noted trend among millennials is that unlike our forebears, we are much more likely to value purpose in a potential career. And the conversation from episode 5 that finally hooked me on the series is about this very desire. Sanae had left her Tokyo job after realizing that she was entirely replaceable, that while working for the company provided them value, it was a value that anyone else could also provide, rendering her unnecessary. It's a deep insecurity that I myself share. In the realm of anime YouTube, I'm simply another kid that's good at English class. No technical or topical expertise, no noteworthy video production skills, not even a particularly strong history with anime itself, all things considered. The primary value I possess Quest was simple output, months of your weekly Friday video on the Friday, with a bunch of multiple video weeks amongst all that. The primary value in my existence is simply that I happen to exist in your sub box more frequently than most, and if those with the actual skill sets were doing so, I'd hold no value of note. The reality check to my melodramatic soliloquying comes when Yoshino points out that the value a given replaceable person holds is in the unique effect the fact that they are doing this job will have. Sure, dozens of other people could have put out a solid analysis video about Made in Abyss, but the fact that it was me who did that meant it was through the lens of an early 2000s marine biology documentary. Anyone else could have made that blue pill joke from the High School of the Dead video, but how many of them would have had estradiol to do it with? The validation of your existence in whatever you're doing doesn't come from the fact that what you will uniquely do is better than what someone else would, but instead the simple fact that it is something that would not exist without you there to bring it into existence. To bring things full circle, that's why your job, however fleeting, can have value, because in your time with it you can create something, be it a tourism initiative, a YouTube video, or a simple positive customer experience that will only ever be there in that way because of you. And god, add on top of all this brilliant multi-layered theming, stuff such as the fantastic one-off pieces of dialogue like, "You're just out of touch in a different way," which expresses its own fascinating self-contained idea about the fact that in many cases we're all just sort of stumbling around here trying to make sense of things and coming at them with our own unique uninformed perspectives, or the creation of 96 different outfits for the main cast throughout the series, along with variations of those on top of that, allowing me to stave off my clothes shopping addiction for at least a few days. And as if that wasn't enough, delving so deeply into my ultra-specific and niche kinks as to bring English-kun on.
1/8.
サイドから見ないと分かりません。まずいぞ、キャプテン。応急処置した給水タンクが破れてる。まだリペアが終わってません。
And to go even further by making him a prominent character that serves as the crux of some of the peak emotional and dramatic moments. The perfection with which this series appeals to me is remarkable. And even points where the series isn't perfect, like a moment where the characters wonder about the fact that the town is sort of being sold on the back of its Manoyama girls, 5 cute young women, but can't actually dive too deeply into that discussion without addressing the fact that this series itself is using a cast of cute young women in order to sell an otherwise fairly unappealing at first glance concept, are often still deeply interesting. There are so many utterly charming character interactions, affecting moments of personal discovery, and incredibly relevant reflections upon modern life that most people would be doing themselves a great disservice by failing to check out this series. An extra special thank you to my patrons who supported this video at the end of last month in spite of it being a few days late. October was very busy for editing over on Jeff's channel, but their gracious assistance got me through that. If you'd like to support my bid to increase the amount of time I have to work on my own stuff, then consider joining Car Keys, Skylar Morrow, Naruto64, Magic Dragon, Mackenzie Knowles, Keiko Cat, Christian Emery, Presto Puma, Laffer Style, Omi Fomi, Garbage Burner, Marcus Gand, Sam Lossaraptor, Tyler aka Gigs, Shoko Asahara, Lord Liquid Bacon II, EasyMe69, Kieran Rice, Valkion, Teencho37, Taktoa, Cherry Boy Writer, MathWiz97, Joji Matthews, Culver James Kamai, Shofty, Zaros Tenjin, Psyker, Zeria, Sakamoto Mio, Darian De Sotel, Joaquim Alfelt, Capsize, and all my other patrons who are helping to make that possible.